Yeah, look, there's many sort of signal moral lessons here. All the people, and Cassidy was one, each of the most disastrous nominees, Trump forced by with incredible pressure on individual senators who were seen as pivotal in providing cover for the other R's. And the consequences to the country and the government, everyone thought they would be disasters. They have been
They have
disasters.
been worse than
Stuart, I wanted to zero in a little bit more on Texas. That seems to be now the marquee battle. It's going to be just next Tuesday. You said, pretty much without hesitation that you think that Trump's endorsement of Paxton means Paxton's now going to win. I wonder if you'd sort of elaborate on that. And then also there's this, 50 times burned and 51 times shy kind of dynamic for Republicans. For me, way back when I thought, oh, maybe Trump will be the nominee. He'll be easy to beat. And now, 9 years later, but some have been saying that Paxton, as extreme as he is, as corrupt as he was already impeached by the Republicans in Texas, Tallarico will have an easier time of it. I wonder how you feel about that kind of wager, and just also if it's so clear now that Paxton's going to take him.
Well, Paxton was ahead and Trump endorsed him, so I don't see any reason why. If you're like a really good football team and you trade for Tom Brady, you're probably not going to do worse. I don't know. So I would say, with the caveat that apparently I know nothing about the Republican Party, that Paxton should win easily. And, I think Donald Trump was seeing numbers that would show that, because he wouldn't have endorsed him otherwise. So look,
because he wouldn't want to be seen as a loser.
Not going to endorse the guy who loses. John Cornyn is just such a sad case. I worked for Bush. I moved to Austin in spring of 1999. I knew John Cornyn when he was a Supreme Court justice, and I worked for him when he ran for Attorney General. I worked for him when he ran for the U.S. Senate, and he was someone who I think was very torn about even getting into politics. He's Supreme Court justice. He thought he had an interesting job, did have an interesting job, thought it mattered, was intellectually challenging. And I can remember having conversations with him. I don't know, politics. I mean, so when he ran for Attorney General, Harry, he was very strict about what he would let us as campaign hacks do. Like, we wanted to go make ads about how he's going to be the toughest sheriff west of the Pecos. And he was like, no, guys. The Attorney General in Texas does like white collar crime. We don't go out there like, and, I can remember saying to him, well, look, John, you might lose. He goes, I lose. So what? I'll go back, And I now look at him and I don't recognize him. And you see pictures of him now or video of him now, and he looks just so defeated. It is so sad. And he's another guy. I mean, I don't think that they would have let Donald Trump in the House. So I think his wife would have before. And so had he fought Trump, would he have won? Probably not. But would he feel a lot better about himself the day after he loses? I would certainly think so.
It does seem kind of tragic that people who capitulate get crushed, anyway. Let's turn, look, Epstein, as you say, the war. These are things really contributing to his unpopularity. The big headlines this week have been all about this $1.8 billion fund to give bounties to presumably anyone who says, and that would include the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, everyone who stormed the ramparts on January 6th. Now, Trump has put Republicans in difficult, delicate positions a lot. Now he's even less popular, and he's even nearer lame duck status. Wearing, I know you think that the wardrobe's all obsolete now, but putting back on your Republican strategist hat that's somewhere in the dust, how would you be advising? Because this is going to be coming up, right? Blanche testified yesterday. They're trying to subpoena him today. How should Republican senators and members be trying to approach this, what seems like a total stinkball?
You froze up on me. Are we reconnected, Harry? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. So look, if I was, I think if ever there was a slow pitch over the middle, it's be against a guy who cuts the deal that he can never be audited, that back taxes that he owes he doesn't have to pay, while you're still paying your taxes. And by the way, that 1.7 billion, is it? It's your tax dollars.
Totally.
And it's going to go to a bunch of, criminals and kooks and lunatics. It's sort of like the Lunatic Lotto. I think it's insane to be for it. And, I think that Trump enjoys this. I think Trump appoints these crazy drunks, fools, incompetents, idiots, the Kristi Noems, the Cass Patels, across the Pete Hegseth, knowing that they're idiots and fools and drunks and lunatics. But he does it to prove that he can make Republican senators vote for him. It's like humiliation through submission. And I think this is another moment. Like, yeah, this is insane. Of course, I negotiated a deal with myself. I got a good deal. And yet stop me. Really? You're going to stop me?
Well, I know they're saying that about the courts, but really, I do think a real political pushback. Look, the law is out there saying you can't do this with a phony baloney lawsuit. There's many legal impediments. I'll just quickly with my lawyer's hat, but you got to get the right person to challenge in the courts. So the best place really would be serious bipartisan pushback in the Senate and House. So it sounds like you think, well, here's another way to put it, I guess. If not here, then where, right?
Yeah, listen, I pretty much had a going out of business sale on any optimism in the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. What I go back to is, look, if a guy helps organize and bring together a mob that then breaks into your workplace and tries to kill you, and you're still okay with that guy? We really think there's going to be some principle here? Oh, that's, his position on the law of the sea treaty. That's too much. He tried to kill me, but no, I really got to draw the line here. You're Mitch McConnell. He insults your wife with racial slurs, and yet you still won't vote to impeach. And then you go out and you give a speech explaining why you should have voted for impeach. I think it is a complete moral collapse of a party. And this is why, somebody who spent sadly far too much of my life pointing out flaws in the Democratic Party, the only reason these people are in power is because they won elections. The only way to get them out of power is to defeat them. And the only way to defeat them is to vote for Democrats. It's that simple. There are no anti-Trump Republicans in the party. This is a party that doesn't have a room for Cheney. I think you have to vote for Democrat because the Democrat Party is the only pro-democracy party left in America. And nothing else matters.